Welcome, everybody. My name is Todd Keirstead, and you are watching TK Talks, stories of inspiration both on and off the golf course. I have with me today a Canadian that has done extremely well in the adaptive golf world. Josh Williams, how you doing today, pal?
I'm doing well, Todd. Thanks so much for the accolades.
So let's get into what was your youth like? What was growing up like for Josh Williams?
Well, I grew up in Kitchener-Waterloo. I still live about 10 minutes away. Went to a small Catholic school. Had an unfortunate boat accident between kindergarten and grade 1. I fell out of a small family boat at our grandparents' cottage, and the prop took my leg off, unfortunately. So from there, I just quickly got on a prosthetic and started playing sports. And I guess the rest is history.
So how old were you when that accident happened?
So I was 6 years old. Happened in 1991. Just about a month before grade 1 started.
So what was the sports then you got into?
You know, I played a little bit of everything. I was an absolute sports junkie. I had a great group of friends growing up in the neighborhood, so we played everything from hockey to baseball, basketball, just about anything you could think of. I never played competitive hockey as a Canadian. That's one stigma I didn't fall into. I mean, I think every Canadian grows up playing a little bit of road hockey and pond hockey. But my loves were, first was baseball. I absolutely loved baseball till I was about 12. And I just kept getting cut from all the rep teams, despite, in my opinion, being better than some of the players. But I mean, that's always what you think, right? So once I couldn't make any of the rep teams in baseball, I transitioned to basketball, where I was kind of leading scorer of some of the house leagues in Kitchener-Waterloo for a few years, and played on a couple rep teams. And that kind of fizzled out once everyone hit puberty and became 6'4", and I got stuck at 5'7". And that's when golf kind of became my labor of love, so to speak.
So when did you get into golfing?
I played maybe a half dozen times at just a little cottage pitch and putt before I was about 14. But I would say I took it up would be the summer after grade 9. So I think that would be the summer of 2000. Summer of 99.
So you're around 15 or 16 years old then at that point.
Yeah, my track career was kind of right at its peak. And the trouble I was having is as much as I loved running, I loved competing, I hated training for track. I didn't enjoy it as much as I knew how important it was, trying to shave milliseconds off your time. So I just needed something else to distract me, just something else to kind of motivate me. And some good friends of mine in high school were convinced me to join Rockway. So I took them up on that, and we started playing 3-4 times a week, and I fell in love immediately. Just really enjoyed the game. I was able to break 90 almost right out of the gate. And from there, I was able to catch up to my friends fairly quickly.
Now, Rockway has a little bit of history behind it. There's a pretty well-known golfer that played out of Rockway too, wasn't there?
There was, yeah. A legend by the name of Mo Norman. I mean, I think anybody in the golf world has probably at least heard Mo Norman's name, especially when Tiger made the claim early in his career that only 2 players in the history of the game have had full control of the golf ball, and that was, in his opinion, Ben Hogan and Mo Norman. I'm very proud to say I was on a first-name basis with Mo. He loved kids, and he loved to help all the kids at Rockway, and he was always quick with a tip. He actually gave a friend of mine his 3-wood passing from the 9th hole to the 10th hole because he liked his tee shot on 1 so much. And he was just a really cool guy to know. Unfortunately, I didn't understand who he was when I was in high school. People talked about him, oh, that's Mo Norman, and I just thought he was some old-timey golfer that, had a history. But I'm sad to say I didn't fully respect and understand who he was until he passed, and I really realized later in life that he was such a figure. I wish I would have put in more time to kind of get to know him and maybe siphon some information away from him.
I had the privilege once of shagging golf balls for him while he was doing a demonstration, and he told me to go out there, and it wasn't a number. It wasn't like go out 250, go out 260 yards. He said, go out there 252 yards. It was like dialed right into that number, and literally I moved like 10 feet one way, 10 feet the other way in the whole clinic. It was just unbelievable to watch.
Oh yeah, he's unbelievable. His best friend Mike Martz is a friend of mine, and he's got so many incredible stories. Very similar, shagging balls. He said Mo used to get bored doing his demonstrations, so every now and then when he's shagging balls, Mo would bounce one off his leg on purpose or something. Like, he was that accurate. You know, just unbelievable.
It's amazing. Yeah, you have people that are telling the most stories, and each one of them you hear, it's just what an incredible individual. So being blessed with starting your golfing career at Rockaway, being in the presence of greatness was great way to kick off your life, man.
No, it was really great. I still have a soft spot for Rockaway. I mean, it's like 5,800 yards from the back tees, if you can call them that. But course has a lot of character, and everyone locally here knows Rockaway, and I still try to play it a couple times a year. I have a soft spot for that golf course. I think, and a lot of good friends of mine developed some pretty solid games coming out of there. And it's interesting because I just heard something on a podcast the other day. They were debating, is it better to grow up at a championship golf course or a smaller golf course? And there's mixed opinions, but I'm of the school that, if you learn to go after birdies young and you learn to shoot 68, even at a small golf course, that can be advantageous down the road.
Absolutely. And let's get into those numbers, like the 68s and stuff like that. What happened back in 2011? Let's start that year off.
2011 was kind of my breakthrough year for disabled golf. I was able to win my first Canadian title just outside of Montreal, a little golf course called the Atlantide. I tell you, it really all started 2 years before that. I made the final group at the Canadians in Edmonton, and the tournament host and famous disabled golfer Bob McDermott won that event, and he won it by a landslide. But just to see him go through everything on the final day and learn from him really set me up for 2011. So going into Montreal, I played really well for it's a 54-hole event. I played extremely well for 50 holes, and then seeing the finish line, I tried to do everything to give it away. I think I tripled 16 and then bogeyed 17, and luckily my opponent Jesse Florkowski from Alberta, he kind of stumbled in too, so it was ripe for the taking. I was nervous and tried to give it away, but made a birdie on 18. It was a short par 5. I was so jacked up, I almost hit it in the water at like 320. We actually had the head pro in our group, and I hit the same tee shot I hit all 3 days, and the head pro's yelling, get down, and I'm thinking, that water's it's not in reach. I was a foot from the edge of the drink. Yeah, I had to hit my wedge through the reeds at the top of the lake there to get it on the green. And yeah, that was a great year. That was a breakout year for me. And it's just, once you get the first one out of the way, it feels like the next few, I don't know if they'd get easier, but it just gets that monkey off your back, I think.
So how many Canadian national titles have you won?
I now have 5. I won 11, 12, and 13, and then 15 and 18.
Wow. So now 2013 was the inaugural one of the amputee long drive competitions, was it not?
Yes, 2013 was a very cool year. I got contacted by Dean Jarvis, who runs the para long drive stuff, and he was just trying to get a new event off the ground. So he invited us down to a beautiful golf course in Loudon, Tennessee, called Tennessee National. Greg Norman design. just an absolutely spectacular private facility there. And I think it was only maybe, I'm not even sure, 12 or 14 of us the first event hitting on this downhill range, and we just had so much fun. Dean did a great job. You know, he had the loudspeakers and the music, you know, the atmosphere that the long drive gets, and they get AC/DC going and you get all pumped up and just try and hit it as hard as you can. It was a ton of fun. And just seeing the distance some of these guys can hit it is just unbelievable.
And then 2014 took you to South Africa. That must have been an incredible experience.
That was unbelievable. So South Africa has one of the best disabled golf programs on the planet, if not the best. With thousands of juniors, they've got provincial feeding tournaments and, you know, paid staff that run their events. When you go to their events, it's like being at a mini tour event. You know, Mercedes on the tee decks and the flags around the putting green, and it's got that real professional atmosphere that comes and goes in the disabled golf world. The golf and the competition's always good, but the professionalism in South Africa was second to none. And they were hosting a world team event for the first time ever in 2014. So they invited, they ran it in conjunction with their stroke play event. So it's a 54-hole stroke play event in combination with a 3-man team event. So that was really exciting to be a part of. And I think the Canadians, we finished 4th overall, but I was able to win the individual stroke play event, which I'm very proud of. I also took down the net title, so I won the gross and the net, which is extremely weird to do, as you know.
Right.
But I told him to give the net to someone else. I was like, I'm not really here to play for net, but I ended up taking home both pieces of hardware.
So you were then one of the top ranked disabled golfers in the world. You're right up there.
Yeah, unfortunately at the time we didn't have an official ranking, but in 2014 I did hold 3 national titles. I was the Canadian champion, the US champion, and the South African champion. So I called myself the best in the world at that time. I was pretty confident I was the only one holding 3 national titles. So I used to say I was the best, even though it was unofficial. It's very exciting now that we have an official world golf ranking being run by the R&A and the USGA. So now I don't get to just make that claim off the cuff. Now I have to earn it. And I don't have any ranking yet. I didn't go out and earn any points last year, which was kind of on purpose. But I'm looking forward to climbing those rankings in 2020 if we can ever get out of this coronavirus scare.
So what are some of the interesting places that you've played around the world then? What would be highlights to you? You got South Africa, you've won in Canada, you've won in US. Is there any places that are a highlight for yourself?
Well, I've been to South Africa 4 times, and I would say it definitely scores top of the list. I've been to Johannesburg area 3 times and then Cape Town once. And just like I said, the professionalism of those tournaments really shows through. It's a special event to be a part of. Going to Japan end of 2014 was really exciting. The Japanese play golf a little differently than we do, and that was a learning curve. They have a lot of on course out of bounds, like they'll put out of bounds stakes anywhere, which I found a little frustrating. Being a longer, wilder hitter, I don't play the traditional Japanese style of golf, which is, you know, hook it 240 down the middle and then knock it on the green. I'm more of a spray and pray kind of golfer, especially back then. So I struggled a little bit with their style of golf, and I played okay over there. It was a team event as well, very similar to the South African event. I think we took a similar 4th or 5th for Canada. And then, you know, I've played a lot of great events around the U.S. and around Canada. I mean, the West Coast is always beautiful, seeing the mountains and getting to play at elevation. Probably the coolest golf course, if you're just talking pure golf, is getting to play Wolf Creek in Mesquite, Nevada. Is probably the most surreal. And I didn't play a tournament there. I don't know if you could host a tournament at such an unbelievable golf course, but yeah, that's getting to play in Mesquite was pretty cool.
Now, with having a tragic accident at such a young age, at 6 years old, do you think that gave you an advantage with not really knowing anything else growing up?
Absolutely. I think it's pretty established in the amputee community for sure, and I'm assuming it applies to any kind of physical disability. The younger you can have that happen to you, not that it's a choice when it happens, but the younger it happens, typically the better athletes tend to adapt, and you'll notice it a lot with amputees. The ones that were born or lost at a very young age, because we don't know any different, that's just life for us. And we learn, I learned to run with one leg. I didn't learn to run with two and then have to relearn it. And I think that's a big advantage when it comes to balance. And if I, meet with a group of amputee friends of mine, I'm the only one that can, run downstairs at a full rate of speed, where a lot of them are still uneasy on stairs because it's just, they had to relearn everything. And I was fortunate enough that I grew with it. And when you grow up with it, I think it just becomes second nature.
So what holds in the future?
Well, first order of business is to get some world ranking. I'm really excited about what's happening in disabled golf around the world. The European Disabled Golf Association teamed up with the European Golf Association that runs the European Tour, and have really put some special stuff in place in the last 16 months. So last year there was 4 European Tour events that invited different size of fields, and my goal is to start playing in some of those events. What was really exciting, I believe they did the Scottish Open, Australian Open, a tournament in Dubai, I don't recall the name of, and there was a 4th event. And the interesting thing about this, and this is kind of new for disabled golf, is they had us playing professional tees. So typically disabled golf events don't go over 6,600 yards, starts getting long for that field. And these European Tour events that we got invited to, or the top ranked players in the world got invited to, were asked to play from the professional tees, the same tees that they're playing the Scottish Open and Australian Open, like I mentioned. So that becomes a big advantage for me, being a player that possesses tour level length. And I think my goal is definitely to start trying to get into some of those events and kind of showing off my talent on a global stage. I think is where I'm headed for 2020.
Well, Josh, you are a great ambassador for the game of golf. You're a great ambassador for disabled golf. This is what TK Talks is all about, showing stories of inspiration both on and off the golf course. Josh, it was an absolute pleasure talking with you today, and I do look forward to, we're pretty close together on a geographical area that we're going to do some fun stuff together over the next little while.
Todd, it's been really great to get to know you in the last little bit, and I'm very excited for what we can possibly do. And I mentioned what my personal goals are for 2020, but as you and I know, we have other goals of hopefully developing some new talent here in Canada and start cultivating the next generation of disabled golfers. And I'm very excited to get going on that as well.
That's the key to it, growing the game and growing the game in all aspects. So, Josh, it was a pleasure. Be safe, my friend, and I do look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks so much for the interview.